The world demands you be small enough to be held, but history only remembers those who were too vast to be contained. The Iron Principle. Why were the most brilliant men in history, those whose names were not just written, but carved into the hard stone of eternity, deep down in their souls, the loneliest creatures to walk the crust of this earth? I want you to stop everything you are doing. Stop for a second and look into the abyss of this question. Do not treat it as a rhetorical question, because this is not a coincidence. It is a pattern, a mathematical, cold, and ruthless pattern. There is a dark mystery that hangs over greatness, a question that echoes in the empty corridors of palaces, in the silent rooms of geniuses, and in the sleepless dawns of visionaries. The question is, why does love, that force we are told since childhood should free and save us, so often act as a rope around the neck? Why does it suffocate precisely those who dare to be larger than life itself? Have you ever stopped to think about the absolute cruelty of this irony? Think of the men you admire in history. Even while being revered by multitudes, applauded by strangers, feared by enemies, and immortalized in statues, these men were never genuinely chosen by the ones they most wanted by their side. The world gave them the throne. The world gave them glory. But the beloved woman denied them warmth. And it is here, at this exact point of pain, that we enter the mind of one of the greatest conquerors humanity has ever seen. We are going to unearth a truth that might hurt. It will burn. But I guarantee you, it is a necessary truth for your survival. Women are nothing but machines for making children. When you hear this brutal phrase from Napoleon Bonaparte, the immediate reflex of our modern, sensitive, and polished society is to label it. We say it is pure misogyny, that it is the scorn of a chauvinistic tyrant. But I invite you to look deeper. Forget moral judgment for a moment. Look beyond the surface of the words, straight to the wound from which they bled. Because this phrase was not born of gratuitous hate. It was born of unbearable pain. It was the pain of a man who built an empire that stretched across endless horizons, a man who redrew the maps of Europe with the tip of his sword, but who, at the end of the day, when taking off boots soiled with mud and gold, realized he could not keep the smallest and most volatile territory of all, a woman's heart. Imagine the impotence. Try to visualize what it is to be a god on earth, capable of moving armies of hundreds of thousands with a simple wave of a hand, capable of toppling thousand-year-old monarchies, but being absolutely incapable of moving Josephine's gaze in your direction. Can you feel the bitter taste of that defeat? Perhaps you are not an emperor, but perhaps you have felt this on your own skin. The devastating sensation that the more you grow, the more you rise, the more you conquer, the further you drift from people. It is a cold sensation, isn't it? The realization that your achievements, those for which you bled, sweated, and cried, instead of generating admiration and desire in your partner, silence the room. They give birth to an instinctive fear in the eyes of those you love. Suddenly, your presence, which should be a safe harbor, an embrace of protection, transmutes into a threat. And why? What was your crime? Only because you refused to be small. Only because you refused to fit into the cursed box of mediocrity. We live in a hypocritical time. We romanticize ambition, yes, but only to the point where it stops being venient. Only until the moment it stops fitting in a lap and asking for affection. Society sells the image of the successful man in movies, in advertisements for expensive watches, but it punishes severely the behavior necessary to achieve that success. The great man, he who is disciplined to the marrow, visionary beyond his time, intense in every breath, is celebrated in Instagram shop windows. But in intimacy? In the intimacy of the living room, he is punished. Because that type of man is inconvenient. He demands space to maneuver his mind. He demands silence, not out of whim, but to hear his own thoughts. He demands absence to build what does not yet exist. And that, my friend, is considered an unforgivable sin for a fragile culture that idolizes the accessible man. The modern world wants the man who replies to messages in 3 seconds. It wants the man who pauses the construction of his legacy to solve an insignificant emotional drama at 2 in the morning. It wants the man who is always there, ready to serve, wagging his tail like a well-trained domestic animal.
Napoleon was not defeated only by cannons at Waterloo. Before that, he had already been defeated by the raw reality of human relations. He discovered that greatness is unbearable for those who desire comfort. And here is the truth that no one has the courage to say out loud, but which I will throw in your face now. Women, in their vast majority, do not want great men. Do not be fooled by appearances, by likes, by comments. They admire the statue. They applaud the speech. They praise physical strength. But at the moment of truth, when it is time to turn off the light and choose who will sleep beside them every night, they choose the predictable. They choose the controllable. They choose the man whose life orbits around her and not around a sacred and dangerous mission. This is not an attack on women. Breathe deeply before getting angry. This is a warning, an emergency alert. It is a call for men who are waking up in the middle of the night with inexplicable anguish, staring at the dark ceiling, wondering, I did everything right. I won the battles. I was good. Why did she leave? Napoleon was not just a general. He was a human comet, dense, brilliant, uncontrollable. His soul burned with a desire so violent to shape the world that reality bent to his will. But, like every object that projects an intense light, behind the imperial brilliance there was a proportional shadow.
a dense and icy shadow: solitude. Most people, trapped in their routines of comfort, do not understand that greatness charges a toll. And this price is not in the history books. The real price hides in the labyrinthine corridors of the mind of a man who decides, in an act of supreme rebellion, that being common is dying while alive. Napoleon paid this price with love. Imagine the contradictory scene, almost pathetic. While he toppled kings, he sat in his tent by the weak light of candles, writing letters where he begged, implored, and cried for Josephine. There was not the Emperor of France. There was a wounded man reduced to his nakedest fragility. And it was in this abyss that he understood the cruel mechanics of the thing. His mission, that very one which elevated him above mortals, had made him invisible to the woman who wanted only predictability. The man capable of inspiring armies to march to death smiling cannot keep a single heart beating by his side. This does not happen due to a lack of love. It happens due to an excess of vision. A great man is, by necessity, an absent man. I do not speak only of travel. I speak of sitting on the sofa, but with the mind taking the next step in the chess of life. He listens to you, nods his head, but his ears are tuned to the voices of the future, to the structures he needs to erect. He hugs you, feels your warmth, but deep down he dreams of the impossible. And that scares. It deeply scares the mind that seeks safety. The man who builds empires, whether a company, a body, or a philosophy, needs silence. He needs to disappear once in a while to converse with his demons and align his strategy. And this vital need is incompatible with the modern demand for daily maintenance and constant validation. Look around you. Make an honest inventory of the men you know. How many of them traded their grandiose dreams for a lukewarm stability? How many shelved a life mission because it cost sleepless nights and the threat of being left by women who did not want to love a warrior, but rather a caretaker? And the most tragic thing is that these castrated men are applauded. They are called mature, balanced, sensible. But if you could open their chests and look inside, you would see a cemetery, the tomb of what they could have been. Napoleon understood this too late. When Josephine lay with other men, seeking immediate warmth while he sought eternal glory, he understood that his titanic love was not enough. It was not enough because he was no longer available to be a small man. This is the hidden terror, the realization that love only survives as long as the man is moldable, as long as he fits the mold. Therefore, the great man is condemned to be labeled cold, arrogant, and unreachable, condemned to see the shine in the woman's eyes go out precisely when he triumphs, because his triumph makes him strange. It makes him distant. It makes him an entity too dangerous to be embraced without risks. The common woman does not abandon the common man because he is weak. She preserves him because he is predictable. But the great man? That one she abandons, because he does not fit in the narrow frame of emotional obedience.
To be great is to accept being a foreigner within your own home. It is accepting being like the sun, a force that warms the world, that allows life, but that irremediably burns anyone who tries to touch it directly. Do you feel this now? Maybe you are living exactly this. You arrive home with your mind vibrating with ideas, and you find silence. You are accused of having changed. You are not the same anymore, she says. And she is right. What happened was that you evolved. You leveled up, and she stayed standing on the same step. Every man who rises, rises alone, not by choice, but because his intense presence reveals the cowardice of those who are not willing to climb. Your light exposes the shadows of others. We live in the era of virile appearance and plastic essence. We see men with full beards, deep voices, posting photos at the gym and talking about stoicism, but who, in practice, fall apart like gelatin at the slightest sign of female discomfort. They have been conditioned. The idea sold is that, to be accepted, the man needs to be safe. And safe here means domesticable, harmless, predictable. We are creating a generation of men trained to please, not to lead. Men who trade the scepter of command for the leash of approval. But the system has a visceral dread of the masculine that does not bow. The untamable man is dangerous not because he is violent, but because he knows exactly what he wants and what he is willing to lose. This is terrifying for those who love control. The untamable man is silent when they expect applause. He denies when they expect a yes. He walks alone in the rain if need be. He is a ruthless mirror that reflects how small the self-love of those who desire a partner who only obeys has become. And here we reach the final crossroads, the question that will define the rest of your life. Do you want to be loved, or do you want to be respected? If you study history, the most respected men, those who changed the course of humanity, were almost never the most loved in life. They did not sleep embraced every night. They did not have idyllic picnics. They created, they built,
They tore their own souls and bled to leave something that would stand when their bones turned to dust. You do not need to be an emperor. It is enough to have something inside you that burns like live embers. Something that makes you wake up early when the body asks for bed. Something that causes you to be misunderstood by the one who swore to love you at the altar. If you are this man, I need to tell you, perhaps you will never be understood, and that is fine. Understanding is a luxury for common people. You are not here for luxury. You are here for war. The war against mediocrity. The war against the daily temptation to pretend to be less than you are, just to fit into contemporary love. You were born to govern yourself, not to serve a system that demands smallness in exchange for sex and affection.
Every great man has heard the question whispered in the dark, what if I was wrong for not choosing comfort? What if I should have just been normal? But the truth, my friend, is that you do not need to die to be forgotten. It is enough to live trying to be understood by everyone. It is enough to live trying to please. The world does not build statues for men who ask permission to exist. History raises monuments only for those who bled in silence. Napoleon hardened at the end not because of power, but because of the bitter realization that no one would follow him to the end out of pure love. Not Josephine, nor his generals, because greatness blinds, and the truly great man is never completely understood. Look at the great ones. Nietzsche died mad, hugging a horse. Van Gogh shot himself in the chest, rejected. Tesla died feeding pigeons, poor. All were poorly loved. But today they are lighthouses. They are gods to those who dare to be more than just work, home, bills. And you? Will you let the fear of being misinterpreted steal your place in history? Life is a binary choice, comfort or immortality, perfect boyfriend or conqueror, a warmed heart or a name in cold marble. Make your choice now and pay the price with honor. I lived this in the flesh. I remember a dawn at 3 a.m, frantically writing a project that would change my life. I was exhausted, anxious, and the only thing I heard from the one sleeping next to me was, "You only think about yourself." That phrase hurt, but there I realized it was not selfishness, it was mission. If this video spoke to your soul, you are at war. The algorithm did not bring you here by mistake, and I am here to tell you that you are winning, even if you are bleeding, even if there is no applause. Accept this: you will not be loved like the others, but console yourself with the truth that you were never made to be like the others. You were made of other material. When solitude knocks at the door, remember, you were not born to be loved like everyone else. You were born to be remembered like few. Amen.